All right, we are live. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to something a little bit new that my felicitative co-host, Chris Rasick, that one is a mouthful,
Yeah.
um, and I are testing out. And it's just going to be a little bit of Amazon news and then a Q&A segment. So if you've got questions about online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, you want to talk wholesale, you want to talk what's going on Amazon, you want to piss and moan a little bit, bring it here in the comments and we'll chat about it for 30-35 minutes, and we're going to try to do this on the regular and make this a recurring bit, if you will. um, i am I am diving deep for some of these adjectives. This one was a positive. I can't always do positive ones, but this one is to make others happy. So uh, Chris, how's it going, man?
It's going good. Um, but boy, we got a lot to piss and moan about if that's the direction that this thing takes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, in just a couple of, fortunately, it's a leap year, so you get one extra day before new fees and things like that go into place. I think that we have beat that horse within an inch of its life. So I'm not sure if we need to go down that particular rabbit hole, but there are other things that have not been so great. You know, well, let's talk a little bit about the first thing, and this one's Thrasio. I don't know, I can't recall, and hopefully someone can tell me whether I'm wrong, or maybe you remember, but if I recall, Thrasio was giving away Teslas for referrals to private labels that they could buy when they first started out. Capital was super cheap, and they raised a bunch of money, and they were buying these private label brands that were Amazon first in most cases, from what I read and understand. And I think it was last night or 2 nights ago at something like 11:57 p.m. or 12:11 a.m. in the middle of the night, they released a notification that they are going belly up. They're filing for bankruptcy. Now, I didn't look too deep into it because honestly, an Amazon aggregator filing for bankruptcy is kind of a slow news day anymore. Uh, but they seem to hold on a lot longer than some of the others. I don't know whether that was because they were better capitalized. I did happen to see a guy on Twitter. His name is Michael Patrone. He's a private label seller out of Florida, and he discussed one of their listings that he thinks should make about $30,000 in profit per day. And so
Wow.
he seemed taken aback a little bit that they were going belly up with that kind of products at their disposal. Which, I mean, me too. If I was making 30K in profit a day, I mean, I enjoy hanging with you, but I probably wouldn't be here right now. I'd be doing other things. Uh, but they filed for bankruptcy. I don't know whether they're restructuring or if they are liquidating. I'm not sure. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think about this? What do you think about these brand aggregators? Did you ever think that there was a fairy tale ending, or was it always destined to, you know, hit the proverbial brick wall?
I think it's still a good idea in theory. Um,
Hmm.
I saw a couple people talking about how it's based on the Amazon stores, and some people seem to think it's a reflection of the e-commerce industry and the marketplaces, and I don't agree with that. The little bit that I read, I think this is um, more a factor of the status of tech companies
Hmm.
and the IPO market more so than it is e-commerce. Because Thrasio at one point in time, I think one of their fundraising series, I think they're called, they raised $1 billion on a $10 billion valuation. So I think, and luckily enough, the convergence here, I happen to be rewatching Silicon Valley on HBO Max. So, and there was actually they talked about it with that in that show that you really don't want to be overvalued during early funding rounds, because then it's harder to that you have a bigger bullseye on your back. So if you
Hmm.
ever need to fund again later down the road, well, now I mean, because you can't necessarily lower the valuation of the company.
Hmm.
So by setting that target at $10 billion when they got the billion, I think it's certainly possible that that was a bit aggressive. Um, there's plenty of information that Thrasio was and or is profitable. They reported $500 million in profit at one point in time in this last several years. Um, I did read that it is a restructuring is the goal. It's not a liquidation, which lends itself to the theory that this could be simply the the state of the tech company
Hmm.
market as opposed to e-commerce. Um, it tells me maybe the underlying numbers have some positivity to them, and something
That's
to grow on. So
that's good news. And I mean, I'm not versed enough in, how cap tables work and all of that, and so I would imagine, but I don't know how a bankruptcy will do what it'll do to the cap table. Uh, but I would imagine there's got to be a fair amount of bloat in a company like that, even if they're profitable. Tech companies or tech forward companies tend to overhire during the good times, and then we've
mhm.
seen it with Facebook and Google and Apple, and I mean the list goes on and on. And now it's sort of, well, let's get back to first principles and realize that we don't need 42 head chefs for the people that work here. And
Right,
so, yeah, I mean, hopefully, it's just let's get rid of some of the extra MBAs that we have. Let's tighten things up a bit. Let's make sure that our debt is structured properly. And hopefully, not too many people lose their jobs. I'd hate to see that. And I also don't want to see good brands on Amazon go away either. I would
right.
like to see these kind of companies do well. Um, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's much better outcome in a restructuring than some of the other aggregators have had in the past. So that's good.
Absolutely.
Um, Now, again, for those of you who are watching, if you guys have questions about OA, retail arbitrage, wholesale, anything else, feel free to ask them in the chat. We'll be more than happy to answer questions as well. It's not just a news and opinion show. We want to help you guys, and so feel free to reach out. And sorry, that thumbs up on StreamYard always gets me. So
Angelica, can I do it too?
that's a good.
Or
It
is
should.
that an Apple thing?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It
I don't
should.
know.
Hey, what's up, AB? Good to see you in the chat. Uh, so the other pieces of news, of course, not so great either. Uh, we got a brand gating that came through very loudly this week in Keels. Now, we know, not everybody may know, but we know that Keels is owned by L'Oreal. L'Oreal, that's one of their portfolio of brands. I believe they have 36 or 37 in total. And the writing has been on the wall for some time. They knocked down Urban Decay. They've knocked down Keels. I don't know what other brands they may. Did they knock down Giorgio Armani yet? Uh,
Not yet, but
Not yet.
that's one of those.
So,
Yeah, the Dior and the Armani stuff. It's like, hey, just
yeah.
lock it down now. Like,
Yeah, just get it over with, rip the band-aid off, let us
yeah,
let us grieve all at once rather than these staccato steps. But yeah, I was thinking about this the other day because on one hand I hear people saying, well, this is the end is near, and what are we going to do? And on the other hand, yeah, I thought your tweet was great. I know that some people disagreed with it, but didn't really care for that brand anyway. It did tend to tank. Of course, you can hold on to it longer if you want to, but that may not be the best thing to do going forward. So, not a huge loss for you. Um,
right.
my thought is, are they going to do this across all of their brands? Which I know a lot of people say that's probably the case. But I'm wondering, are they really just going to do this to department store brands, brands that they may want to have a little bit tighter control on pricing, on who's selling it, and things like that? Because I went in and I was like, oh well, L'Oreal, okay, can't sell Keels anymore. We've lost Urban Decay. Those are going to be like Keels is at I think Macy's or Bloomingdale's. I don't know, one of those stores that I don't shop at very often. Um, Urban Decay, I think they have their own storefronts and are at some higher end stores. And then I was thinking, well, why haven't they gated their namesake brand? Why haven't they gated L'Oreal? Well, I can buy that at Walgreens. Do they really care if someone's selling a $6.99 eyeshadow for $8.99 on Amazon? Um, and so I'm curious. What do you think? What do you think happens going forward?
I think definitely it's just piece by piece. I don't think they would, lock down their entire portfolio. Uh, because one thing, this is kind of something that you kind of have to read between the lines, or I try to read between the lines and I make this all up. I don't know. It's the jury's still out on that. But my opinion is Estee Lauder and L'Oreal, companies like that, these are the old guard.
Mm-hmm.
These are well-established brands that, they used to be the glass case counters at the malls. They used to have the employees in the smocks and they do mini makeovers and that used to be premium beauty, essentially, right?
Yep.
And Estee Lauder and L'Oreal were two of the top names in the old premium beauty category.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have, halftime shows pumping Fenty Beauty. Premium. It's more of an influencer market. I think the
Right.
marketing for premium beauty has changed. So L'Oreal and Estee Lauder are kind of scrambling, figuring out ways to stay relevant.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I think that I wouldn't be surprised if they're making it up as they go along. Just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't. I mean, it makes sense that they will want to lock down the more valuable brands that they have, or the higher ticket ones at least. Like you mentioned, echoing your statement, that the stuff that's sold in Walmart, that's probably more of a volume play for them.
Mm-hmm.
That's an everyday, that's a, in the medicine cabinet thing, that you don't lock away from your little girls getting in and playing with, that
Right.
stuff. um, the premium stuff though, and we know the one thing that hasn't changed with beauty is that premium products bring a lot of money. Like it's you can spend a whole lot of money on um, liar's paint if you're if you're into the nicknames like that. Uh, and no disrespect, ladies. Um, but yeah, so I think they're just kind of winging it and they're kind of going from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the one thing for sure is, yeah, I like you mentioned my tweet. I wasn't a fan. I was a fan of Keels in theory. It looked good when you found it, but didn't stay good. It was one of the quicker tanking ones. It seemed to reach top speed tank faster than most. I actually looked it up on Inventory Labs, and my lifetime ROI on Keels is 18%.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I see the only consistent good luck that I had with Keels was catching those kind of one-off clearances from Kohl's, or the department store that just kind of was offing some stuff. As far as
Mm-hmm.
the big Keel sales, somebody replied, and I think they're absolutely right. It was one of those you have to be first or last kind of situations.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So something, and this is just an aside, something I was thinking of. So L'Oreal annual sales, if I read this right, yeah. So their annual sales in 2022 were $38.26 billion. That's euros. So about $40 billion in annual beauty sales across their portfolio of products. Urban Decay did 300 million last year, and Keels did north of 100 million. So I don't know. To me, it seems like those are, I'm guessing those are probably some of their larger brands. I mean, outside of L'Oreal itself, I would imagine
right,
L'Oreal, even though it's a lower ticket item in most cases. That's probably going to be the bulk of their annual revenue. So I
Yeah.
am I don't know. It will be interesting to see how this progresses, but I do think we should stop the sky is falling nonsense.
Right.
As soon as I heard that, well, this is happening more and more. Well, yes, the market is maturing. Marketplaces in general get more difficult as they mature. That's just the nature of a marketplace. We've seen it with eBay. If we want to talk, probably the old, or well, one of the oldest marketplaces on the internet. It happened with Yahoo Shops. If anybody remembers those, uh, it's happening with Amazon. But that doesn't mean that arbitrage opportunities are going to be a thing of the past. And I was really thinking about this. Let's just say that a ton of brands do end up becoming gated. They're either handled by first party sellers or they are given to just a select few, the patterns of the world. The thing is Amazon cannot do that at scale. And there's a very specific reason. It's the long tail. And I'm going to bring up Ken on Twitter and Zach Altmaier. These two guys specialize in things that you can't do outside of arbitrage. You can't do it with wholesale. You can't do it with private label. Ken buys and holds Lego sets. We'll hold them for as short of a time as possible, but 1 to 2 years, and then flip them for 100, 500, 1,000% ROI. And he gets that dust money. You cannot do that with any other model but the arbitrage model. You have to be willing to store it in your own location. It has to be stored, in a way that it's not going to get damaged. But the thing is that that's really what drives people to Amazon. Anything that I want, I can find it with a quick search. And if that goes away, that becomes a problem. Sure, I can get the Head and Shoulders, I can get the Stanley Cups, but I'm not going to find that one thing that I'm looking for. I don't want to go to the online flea market of eBay for it. I want to go to a place where I know I'm going to get it in 2 days. It's got a great return policy. I'm not going to have to, worry about anything. I'm backed up by Amazon. So arbitrage will never go away, no matter what, even if it looks different down the road.
Yeah.
Now, we're about 15, 20, or 15 to 17 minutes into this. I want to remind people one more time because we've got nothing in the chat. We're not just here for news and opinion, although we've got plenty of that. We are also here to answer your questions. So if you've got questions about online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, wholesale, selling on Amazon, whatever it is, let us know. We'll be happy to give you our unvarnished opinion on anything. So the last piece of news that I wanted to talk about was I happened to see today. I got tagged in something said they got 60 to 100 emails from Amazon gating brands in the health and personal care category. Everything from Skin brand, which that's a condom brand. I'm sorry if there are small ears in the audience. To Jarro, to all kinds of things. Now, Jarro for me has been gated for a long time, and they're not accepting applications. But I went and checked a few of these brands, and Skin I got auto approved in. Several others I got auto approved in. And then I started going down the rabbit hole, and it seems like this is a glitch. Um, and this happened. It's not the first time it's happened. It probably won't be the last time it's happened. But I wanted to get your opinion before I keep going on my soapbox about this.
Yeah, I personally I haven't noticed anything. I just through what I've been doing today, just organically, and then once you mentioned it before the show, I did take a look around at some of the health and beauty stuff that I have in stock, and everything's still green on my Rev Seller. So yeah, this seems to be a regular occurrence. I maybe it's an Amazon butterfly effect.
Hmm.
They change something on one hemisphere, and a tornado happens on the other hemisphere. Um, yeah. What if it's the? Did you notice in the seller app that you can now have? It's a one click. The categories across the top, like your sales, your units, those are now one clicks, and it'll take you right to the detail page in the app now. Maybe jiggled a wire, and then
It could
somewhere else everything got gated.
Could be. And who knows what kind of API changes they might be making on the back end and not releasing live due to the new inbound shipping and
Right.
things like that. And, I mean, I have been told that Amazon systems are basically duct taped together. And I believe that because I've seen it at, I sold insurance for I don't know. I think it's a Fortune 1000 company or something. When I sold insurance, they were a big time insurance company. It was the same thing there. They had, they had 1,000 developers, and everything was just loosely stitched together, just enough to make sure that it worked. But if someone pulled one string, you'd see this cascade effect. And I would not be surprised if it's that way at Amazon as well. Um, I think one of the biggest things that people need to do is I know that this is our livelihoods, or it's maybe it's something that we're using to pay off debt, or put the kids in private school, or whatever it is. And so it becomes a large part of our identity, and oftentimes. But sometimes we got to pull back and say, you know what, before I really worry, before I freak out, I'm going to wait for a week or 2 weeks and just see if this kind of smooths over.
Right.
So I mean, that's really the only advice that I can give to people when this kind of thing happens.
Yeah, I think it's the shock value kind of, if you don't take a beat, and you let your knee jerk reaction kind of take over. It's startling for sure. You know,
Oh,
uh, um,
absolutely.
I'm not saying anything about anybody that reacts negatively to this kind of stuff. But
It's
I think the
natural.
thing you have to ask yourself, yeah, absolutely, it's natural. But the thing you have to ask yourself is, how many of these things like this have ever stuck? Like, when's the last time you got a blanket regating that you didn't see coming?
Hmm.
Like it happened to me with account health. I lost a bunch of brands um, when my IPI score, or not, no, not IPI, the account health rating, I dropped below something, and I must have, you know, dipped below some sort of threshold. So, I could tell. Well, I mean, there were flat out some brands that I couldn't sell anymore, like Nature, I don't know, Nature's Way or Nature Made, or one of those vitamin companies or something like that. All of a sudden, that's gone. Um, and even as I cleared up my account health and my score bounced back up, it still didn't come back. So, but I saw that coming, you know.
Right.
So, just kind of you got to take a breath, and kind of assess the landscape of everything. Is this something that you saw coming? If it wasn't, and it's completely out of the blue, chances are, your first thought should go to glitch. As uncomfortable as it is to wait something like that out.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know. We see it a lot. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way it is.
Hmm.
So I see Diamond Lane Drew popped in on Twitter. Thanks for popping in here, man. And Gino has a couple of questions, so we're gonna hit some questions again. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask them, and we're gonna chat about it. So this first one is, what would you guys say is average prep cost for prep centers per unit, bundle, glass? So I'm gonna go first, and Chris can chime in too. So the only real answer is it depends. So what I've noticed is in tax-free states, you're probably going to pay a little bit more, and I don't know whether that's just out of convenience or whatever it is. Uh, but the places that I have a list of hundreds of prep centers, but the ones that I really refer people to, which I'll name them. Gray Fox, Corey runs an incredible prep center out of Montana. Uh, Charles Leslie runs a great prep center out of Oregon called Network Prep. and Kyle runs a great prep center out of Oregon called Proven Prep. Those are three places that I send people to, and none of them ever make me look bad. Uh, I think that those guys charge on average about a buck 75 per unit. That sounds about right. It's gonna be more for a bundle. I want to say that Charles is at 325 for a bundle up to 5 or 6 units or something, and then glass it's gonna be a little bit more, just because they got to bubble wrap it. But of those three places, that is an all inclusive price. So you don't have to worry that, oh, well, I'm going to get upcharged for a poly bag. I'm going to get upcharged for this and that. That's not going to happen unless it's a special circumstance. Uh, then you're going to come across other places that are cheaper, but you have to watch out for the fine print because it's 50 cents a unit, but then they charge 20 cents for any destickering and 25 cents for a poly bag, and they charge you a buck 35 per box that they use, and so on. I've also found that in many cases, prep centers in taxable states that accept things like OA and RA might charge a little bit less just to be more competitive with the folks in tax-free states. You get a big advantage. If I in the state of Florida, I pay 7.5% sales tax. So if I buy something for $100, it's going to cost me 107.50, except for certain items. Like, the cool thing about living with a bunch of old people in Florida is vitamins and supplements are not taxed. uh, you know, but if I want to buy a pair of shoes, I'm going to pay 750 per $100. Well, that might cost me 350 to have it prepped in a tax-free prep center. But I'm saving whatever. I'm not going to do public math, but whatever the difference between 350 and 750 is, I'm going to save that. Okay. And I don't have to touch it, and I don't have to manage an employee that touches it. So that's probably about what you should see per unit. Uh, but always ask wherever you go to a prep center. Have a conversation. Should never be something that you walk into blindly.
Right.
All day FBA. Should I be concerned about the new fee structure as a low volume seller? So, Chris, I want you to go first on this one.
Yeah. Still Chris's answer. It depends. We've talked about this a couple different times. I think there's still a lot to be learned once it's put into practice. Um, the now I will say overall, Amazon is kind of moving towards velocity. Like
Mm-hmm.
the faster you sell through stuff, sell through is very, very important. Um, because it's a sibling to quicker delivery times. They want to shorten that length of time between hitting your shopping cart, paying for it, and then it showing up at your door. So that's where all this stuff is born from. They want to be as efficient as possible. They want to keep eliminating um, or lowering shipping times. So um, it kind of still a wait and see once we actually see it play out. Um, the one thing that I always go back to is everybody has this stuff, so if all low volume sellers have the same fees, so I don't believe that there's going to be a huge advantage to the higher volume sellers over the lower volume sellers. I think ultimately the numbers that you're sourcing, I don't think they're going to skew drastically. I don't think a high volume seller is going to be able to buy a product for $20, make $7 profit. But if you're lower volume because of the extra fees and everything, you're only going to make 350. I don't think it's going to
Mm-hmm.
be that drastic. Um, but it's a new fee, so obviously it's our antenna are up. Um,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't lose sleep over it.
Yeah, I don't think I'd lose sleep over it. I think that, I mean, we've got two new things coming at us. One, we've got the inbound placement fees. And I saw a breakdown, and someone said, I could do the I could do the one, I don't know, one place shipment. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Uh, but essentially, it's inventory placement is what it is. And
Right.
that was going to cost them X amount of dollars. Or they could do the Amazon optimized shipment, and I think that was going to cost them less than sending it to one location, based on what they think their inbound shipping costs will be. So, one way or the other, Amazon is pushing the shipping costs that they have incurred over the past several years onto Amazon sellers, either by the fact that, I'm in Florida, maybe I have to ship more of my items to California than I may have had to in the past, and I'm going to pay a higher shipping fee to UPS to get those things out there if I'm using SPD. I don't do any LTL, so I can't really talk on that. Uh, or I'm going to pay Amazon what they were paying to put items on a truck and ship them around the country. So that's going to affect everyone equally. That's going to be a level playing field. What what we really can't be sure of right now, and I know that some talking heads seem to already have this in their mind, that the low level inventory fees is going to apply to every single seller on a listing. I have a contrary opinion to that. It doesn't make sense to me for Amazon to do that, because if you and I are on the same listing, let's say we're selling a, I don't know, let's say we're selling a nature made vitamin that we source from Walgreens. You and I both know how to get the absolute lowest cost every single time. It's a buy one get one free. We've got an extra 20% off. Maybe we're doing in store pickup, and maybe we know how to pay in store. All kinds of stuff. But we're getting it for the lowest absolute cost. Does Amazon, if they want 100 units in stock at all times to take care of the next 28 days or 29 days or what it is, do they really want you to have 100 in stock and me to have 100 in stock and the three or four or seven other sellers to have 100 in stock as well? That that doesn't make sense, because that
Right.
flies in the face of Amazon running a lean operation on the fulfillment side of things.
Right.
So I've got this sneaking suspicion that it's going to be on the ASIN in total. If there is less than X number of days in stock, then the people selling it are going to get charged when it's sold. Now,
Right.
the cool thing about these fees is what's going to happen is it's going to hurt on the front end. Nobody's going to understand it. We're going to all be trying to figure it out at the same time. We're going to see margins dip a little bit and things like that. And then in 3 months from now, the market or the sellers are going to say, "Oh, I get it now. Okay, I need to put this much into my sourcing costs to make up for these fees. Let's pass that on to the consumer." And I think we're going to see prices inflate just a little bit to take care of it. The people who can't figure it out are going to end up going away, and there will be some healing, uh, you know,
Right.
but that'll take a little time.
And does that deter sellers from replanning it? Does that period of time where the seller count's dropping and the price is going up, is that going to climb back up slower now, which creates more opportunity for the sellers who are going to replenish that item?
Hmm.
Um, you know, and I think, I think the key to this, the low volume fee is, because you think about it, have you, when you see those listings, Amazon will tell you this is frequently out of stock. And usually when they have that message that it's frequently out of stock, they give you substitutes, right? They'll put up, three different products that have better in stock rates, and they'll try to move the customer towards those. So that tells me that Amazon simply wants to be in stock. You
Hmm.
know, they want to have the products that consumers want to buy, and they want to always be in stock. So um, I think that's kind of the crux of the matter there.
Yeah.
So
And so actually, as a low volume seller, I think that you probably have you have an advantage, because you can say, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to take $250. I'm going to buy these products, and these are going to be my test products. So I know what kind of fees I'm going to see. Um, I wouldn't want to do that with $25,000. I would much rather do that with $250. And if it makes me go negative, and maybe I only get 220 back, okay, well it cost me $30 to learn what these new fees mean and how I need to adjust in my business. So
And those test buys will be the least amount of profit if you end up going back, if you replenish it. Your test buy should be the least profitable. So
mhm,
if you buy 5 or 10 or whatever, and you get a low volume fee or something like that, but if the numbers look good and you decide to go back at it and you fire again and send 50 in, you're going to have so much more of your inventory profit, sending you profit without those fees, which is going to
yeah.
balance out the last few units if you do incur some fees the next time around.
Yeah. One other thing I want to bring up, and we're going to have to wrap here pretty soon because my wife told me that dinner is coming out of the oven. But uh, Arbitrage Ops put up a really good post today, and they shared their numbers based on the last 30 days, how many of their, how much gross sales they've done, and what their total profit was repricing above the buy box. Okay. Uh, we've got to remember you don't, we all complain about penny droppers. You don't have to play that game. Uh, you might remember I asked you to send me a screenshot of a buy box of a particular product in your area the other day. I also asked another person in Columbus, Ohio. I asked a friend in Australia, a friend in New Jersey, and a friend in Colorado. Out of the and then my buy box. So that was 5 or 6 buy boxes in total. Uh, 3 of them were the same price, and the other 3 were all different prices. And they ranged from $20.37 to $25.37 on the exact same product. That's a high volume product, uh, across all these different areas. So we know the regional buy box is a real thing. You can price higher, you can get sales above the buy box, and that keep us not ever going to show you. Uh, and so that's the strategy that I'll be using is, hey, you know what? Let's try to run this price up as much as we can to make up for any fees that are coming in here because Amazon sellers or Amazon buyers, they just want it as fast as they possibly can, and they're not necessarily going to squabble over, 50 cents or a buck 50 when they need it tomorrow.
Right.
Uh, so talking about that, Gino asked, what kind of repricing strategies do you guys try to use to bring the buy box back? So I use Aura. They have AI, in their repricer, and I just kind of let that do its thing for the most part. But honestly, I've never really been someone that tries to bring back a buy box. I'm not lowering my price to try to bring that buy box back. If I'm on a listing that doesn't have a buy box, I'm on it because there is proof of velocity, and it sells with a suppressed buy box. So I don't even worry about it. If I can get sales and it's proven to show that there are sales without a buy box, I don't even try.
Yep. I'm the same way.
Gino also is curious. Have you guys ever made a listing for a wholesale product? I was on a good wholesale listing that got deleted. Have you made any listings of your own?
I've never
Okay.
done it, actually.
So I've never made listings on wholesale products. I've made listings for other products, arbitrage products. If it got deleted, if a listing got deleted, I'd want to figure out why it got deleted before I go back in and make another listing. Is it something that shouldn't be sold on Amazon? Is it a brand? Was it a generic brand and it finally got sent to the trash bin? So before you go do and make it another listing, try to figure out why. Uh, let's see here. Oh, hey, Deck is here. What's going on, man? Um, do you guys do you guys think it would be more beneficial for Amazon to grant seller fulfilled Prime to more sellers instead of this low inventory fee? I don't think that enough sellers have the capability to ship items to customers as quickly as Amazon wants them to be shipped. There are guys who pump massive MF volume, and can do it. And you know, maybe they don't. Maybe this is their full time job. Maybe this is, you know, maybe they're in their early 20s and they don't have any other responsibilities. Um, Even if I could get it, which actually I think I might be eligible. I can't remember. I have to go look. I wouldn't do it because I don't have the time. I don't have the bandwidth, and I don't want to manage people to do it for me. So no, I don't think that's necessarily beneficial for Amazon to offer more people SFP, because they're worried about the customer first and they want to make sure
Right.
that products get there, and they need to leave that on them rather than a seller. All right. We got to wrap up, but I do want to say we've got a new podcast that is on its way. It is uploading as we speak. You guys should go check that out. It's all about how to access more capital in your business. And there's going to be one method that I think kind of blows your mind a little bit, because it's not about going out and get another credit card or a line of credit or anything like that. It's completely the opposite. But I'm not going to give it away. You got to go listen to the episode. It's called How to Access More Capital for Your Amazon FBA Business. It's going to be on all your favorite podcast players as well as YouTube. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw this out as well. Down in the description of the video, I am holding a webinar tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern. I've got something called the Picasso method, which I will reveal tomorrow what that is. Um, it's free webinar, happens at 1 p.m. Eastern. You can go to cleartheshelf.com/Picasso and you can register. We're going to have a replay up for about 96 hours. It's not going to be a replay that I just leave out there forever, but it'll be up for 96 hours. We'll send you the replay so you can watch it, over the next couple of days, and then we will take it down. So go get registered for that. And now that my shilling is over, Chris, is there anything that you would like to shill before we wrap this thing up until next week?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Go follow Chris on Twitter, Instagram. Chris has also got a great tracker, which is down in the description as well. You should grab that. And that's it for today, guys. Have a great one.